Ken-Pai.
Wait, you guys seriously want me to teach you how to color? Okay. This is my first tutorial, so by no means am I a pro artist. So don't follow everything I say with 100% belief. Sorry for my mic quality. I don't have a proper mic. I'm using my phone. And without further ado, let's begin. Number 1, your light source.
Now before you start all that fancy shading, you gotta know where your light source is. So I'm gonna place the sun right over here. That makes this other side darker. Now when making your light color, make sure it's not just plain out white.
And even though the clothes here are gray, I chose the highlight source to be a darkish purple instead of a flat out gray.
This gives it a bit more unique look.
The next thing you should know about coloring is your values. And no, not your core values.
Basically the whole gist of it is form. Think of it as you're shading a 3D object.
Now this should be an easy way of shading because it's mostly just blending all the values together. Even though it looks pretty complicated, it helps you learn the fundamentals of the anatomy and forms. And you can always simplify it later for your own style. Basically, reduce all parts to a simple form and objects.
Nice. You see these cylinders? They're not cylinders, that's a leg. These cylinders? That's not just a cylinder, that's an arm. And this sphere? That's not a sphere, that's a...
Jokes aside, blur and blend tool is the best way to achieve this result.
Now when it comes to coloring, shading, drawing hair, I like to refer to the tangerine strategy. And what this is you draw every strand connected to the top of the root here, where all the hair begins. Now when doing your hair highlights, there's no really specific way of doing it. You can have it a big stroke,
or maybe even an N shape.
And then you can just maybe blur it off after.
Pretty much, yeah, just do whatever. And then something I like to do is I make a little darker gradient at the end, and maybe sometimes a bright one at the top. Then I would take the skin color or something pinkish and blur it around the corners of the hair. This gives a glow and a transparent effect. The next thing I'm going to teach you about is your color palette. Now beginners tend to use the same color wheel and drag it down to black and white just for their tones. And that's not really interesting. So what you can do is slightly tilting it down to a different color. What you could try is changing the line color. Changing the line color can brighten and pop out your line work even more. Try experimenting with different colors. Colors you wouldn't see normally when shading your thing. An example would be what's on the screen right now. This gives it a more rich color tone. Now doesn't that one look better?
Wow!
The best thing to do when you finish your drawing is using the levels and the tones. Now this could be used to enhance your shadows, lights, colors, all that good stuff. Now you just all have to do is mix the slider different ways. There's no really specific way. You can always stop at whenever you're satisfied.
Hey, that's pretty good.
And if none of the options appeal to you, then that's fine. You can always stick to your original art. My next tip would be using references. Now this should be obvious, but using references you can get the color you exactly envisioned or the mood you want, and pretty much helps you with your piece overall. Though I would warn you that when using something like an anime screenshot, that sometimes the colors can be pretty muddy, so you might have to creating a more colorful, saturated look yourself. Finally, let's go over all our tips in this one final drawing process. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. Like this video if it helped you, or dislike it if it didn't. And I might remake this video if I'm a better artist, so yeah. I'm gonna go now.